Welcome to another episode of Culture8 Podcast, where we dive deep into the human side of work. I'm your host, Gaurav Rastogi, founder of Ezini, your trusted advisor on building generative organizational cultures. And today I'm thrilled to bring back someone who genuinely redefines that what HR can and should do. Abigail Caldwell, proud founder of People Operations Advisory, isn't just an HR leader, she's a culture builder, a champion for people, and someone I deeply admire. If you heard our first conversation, you already know why. And if you haven't, you're about to find out. Welcome back, Abby.
Hey, you are way too kind with your introduction, but I am glad to be back.
Thank you. What's exciting happening at People Operations Advisory?
Well, just that we completely launched it. So before I was going off of, freelancing, ability, HR, but I have officially gotten my LLC. Thank you to you, Gaurav, for your influence there. And I'm doing a lot more conversations with executives and founders.
Fantastic. And I wish you all tremendous success and great luck on moving on. Awesome. So since we last spoke, how has your perspective on culture evolved?
I wouldn't say that it necessarily evolved. My perspective has been shifting as I talk to different founders and executives, all at various stages of their business growth. And I think one thing that stands out to me is it actually came from a good friend of mine. She said, and she's an HR consultant as well, shout out to her, but she said in a post recently that by the time she comes into organizations, the culture and the HR functions are essentially duct taped together, stitched together, which possibly means by that time some bad habits have already been formed. So my perspective lately has been, how do we transform those tendencies and habits and that have helped a company get off the ground and help them to hustle? How do we transform them and shape them into useful cultural tools going forward? So I think every company is different and there is no template to company culture. So we sometimes just have to take a very delicate approach, observe for a good long while before we start to implement any cultural changes.
I think we should talk because that's exactly what Ezini does as well. The idea about organization culture is that, like you said, it's very unique. And what is culture? If you recall, I don't know if I've ever had that conversation with you, a culture is like, think of it as a iceberg. At the very top is the artifacts, everything that we hear, feel, and see. Below that, under the water, is the espoused values and beliefs. This is what we want to do, the ideology, the philosophy of the company. This is what we want to get to. And at the very bottom, deep down in the ocean, is the basic assumptions. So that's culture is really a shared learning of the organization as it solves its problems, right? And those, when with success, transform into basic assumptions. So when you say that, obviously organizations not necessarily focus on building a culture, what they're really doing is letting it evolve as it is. The basic beliefs, espoused beliefs, then transform based on success into basic assumptions. Some of them are bad habits. We as Ezini, we go in and follow Edgar H. Sheehan's framework to do a workshop. It's a half a day workshop, depending again on the size of the organization. But the idea is to look at artifacts, look at espoused values and beliefs, figure out what's the differences between them, and then write down what are the basic assumptions. This is what rather informs the people in the organization subconsciously to make decisions. So some of them are bad decisions, some of them are great decisions. Figuring out the positives and what's holding them back and what's pushing them forward, and use that to transform the organizational culture. We should talk more about this at a later point.
And how my perspective has evolved in that way is that I'm just noticing it's a lot harder to shift a culture or even make incremental changes as the business is growing and wants to grow, because the way that it was shaped, that hustle mentality that really got them off the ground, is kind of something that executives and founders and leaders that have been part of that organization, they hold very dear to them, because
Yes,
it was that grit that got them to that next stage. So sometimes that can be hard to let go of.
it's like I mentioned, right? It's a basic assumption. It's a part of the subconscious. It's their identity. That's why change is hard. That's why culture change is hard, because how would you feel if I asked you to change your basic beliefs and values? You would resist. That's where the resistance comes from. Awesome.
Absolutely.
I love this. I love this response. Thank you. Um, we're hearing more about disengagement and resentment cultures. What do you think leaders miss when they try to solve this?
Well, let's think about why employees might be resentful. Looking at your experience, just what you've witnessed out talking to different founders and executives and employees, what do you think causes burnout or resentment cultures?
Honestly, if I take it personally in terms of thinking about what would cause me to be resentful, not being cared for, not being heard, not being asked for my own opinion about what we should do if a particular challenge comes up. If you're there to just give me instructions to do the work, you're not tapping into what makes me feel good, and that's my own creativity. What helps me to grow as an individual, my creativity.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. So it's burnout, it's lack of room for creativity, it's no focus on development, it's no recognition of wins, even small wins. And I think all employees have different unique motivators. Those motivators are what charge that resentment if they're not tended to, if it's not cared for. And leaders might be overlooking these root causes of why people are building resentment. And even the word resentment, this is a feeling that builds. It's not something that happens overnight. So the employees are feeling unheard, undervalued. My advice to leadership and to organizations is to not sugarcoat cultural concerns or try to fix them with temporary solutions, but instead talk about the culture, systematically design your culture, and be honest with yourselves about what might be the root cause of this resentment.
Yeah, I love it. And Abby, that's where I admire you so much as a human resource person, because you made that extra effort to reach out to people, even if it wasn't part of your look. Human resources, we know that there is certain the functional aspects of a human resource, but you took it further than that. You were out there talking to people, making them feel belong. So I love that part about it. And I think that's one of the, like you said, talk to your people.
Yes. And for HR leaders or professionals in HR, that can be a hard conversation. And I think sometimes that's even where some people have that feeling that HR is two-faced, because we're talking to them, we're relating to them, but then nothing gets changed, or the things that they have shared in confidence, there's no improvements to the organization. I learned this a long time ago, that I don't have to be liked by executives or leaders. The goal is to not be friendly and be liked. The goal is to take care of the team. And through that, obviously, you'll get people that enjoy working with you, but it's not my goal ever in an organization to come in and sugarcoat what is actually going on. I want to talk about the hard truths and have those conversations, because I think practicing radical candor will get us to the root cause a lot quicker than putting little band-aids over things here and there.
I love it. No, seriously, having those hard conversations is what makes an organization good, because that's where the creativity will ooze out and help the organization, rather than just, like you said, don't sugarcoat. That's not going to work. It's not helpful. And I wanted to go back, just like you mentioned something about it's going to take time. And I keep thinking about this. It's a Charlie Maloff. He's a CEO of Broad River Retail, the licensee for Ashley Furnitures. And he's the one who came up with this quote, or at least I believe so. He said, like, culture isn't a microwavable event, it's a crockpot approach. It will take time, so take steps towards it.
I love that.
I use it all the time. Awesome. um, so let's move on. You've shared how culture can't live only in the human resources objectives and key results. What structural shifts help spread culture responsibility across the organization?
I would say policies and processes. So operations. I think culture lives within our processes, our rewards, our consequences, our growth efforts, our career leveling and promotions. We have to build and continue to shape our policies and processes around our expected behaviors. So, if a company is truly focused on culture, they need to build it into their KPIs and their training and development. If you think about a scenario, I promote a leader who doesn't truly understand our culture and our values. Maybe it's not that they don't exemplify it, but they don't truly understand the impact of it. And by that, they're not champions of our culture. Well, now they're a leader. And now we've taken that kind of behavior and we've multiplied it by 5 to 10 more additional people. And that's how toxic cultures kind of spread inside of an organization is you take somebody who doesn't understand or doesn't exemplify the values and you put them in a position to where now they have influence. So I would say that structural shifts that can prevent that and take that person and build them into a culture champion or take a team and build them into culture champions is by first shaping your policies and processes around your culture and values, building onboarding in a way that includes a very clear focus on the importance of culture and community. Focus on soft skill training and community development courses throughout the entire organization. Design your employee surveys with questions that can create actionable improvements. And executives, leaders, and HR should work together to map their OKRs back to core values.
Fantastic. People, systems, and processes. It's so important. And that's exactly what organizational culture is. And you touched upon the leadership aspect. Leaders bring the organizational culture to the organization. And that's like we were talking about earlier, the espoused values and beliefs. That's what leadership brings. And if we bring in a leader who's not living the values, and it's really all about that, right? The behaviors that we want is what makes culture, and it's basically living those values that's going to lead you intentionally towards what your desired state of culture is. So fantastic stuff. Awesome. Last time you said that organizations should be vehicles for people's growth, right? What gets in the way of that in the real life?
Probably a lot of things, retention metrics, customer loyalty, the economy. Realistically, it's not always a smart move for businesses, but going back to resentment culture topic that we discussed, if companies do not listen to their employees' unique needs, the employees will leave anyways. So a business, I think, should strive to develop professionals in as many ways as possible to make them an asset to any company that they go to. But they should treat them so well that those employees don't want to leave. They stay because they get fulfillment in their roles with that organization. And that's the main goal. You do want tenure, but you don't want tenure through force. You want it through fulfillment.
Wow. It's just like you want voluntary commitment, not compliance,
Yes,
right?
yes, of course. You don't want to scare someone into staying. You want them to stay because they love what they do and who they do it with at the organization.
Yeah, and I especially love, and I say this also all the time, treat people, and I think this was Virgin's boss, right? Richard, I think that's his name. He said, right, treat people so that they can stay, but grow them so that they can leave. And growing, and this is something which Hansen, old president of another insurance company, mentioned. And in fact, a Japanese CEO also mentioned a long time back is, and this is I'm reading from Peter Senge's Fifth Discipline, the point about growing people, and I say this often as well, both professionally and spiritually. I know it's a very romantic notion, but I think when we grow people in both aspects, as really grow people as humans, right? They will feel much more that it just fires up their intrinsic motivation to do the best for their entire community, their people, their colleagues, their customers, the organization as a whole. So great stuff. All right. Especially love this part. So you host a peer group of human resource leaders. And what are the themes that keep coming up in those sessions?
We share advice and we mentor each other. So the topics that come up range every single day. And it really just depends on what our current focus is or our challenges. That challenge could be that And there's been topics where we discuss HR's development. A lot of companies, HR is focused on everybody else's development and learning, and nobody really focuses on HR. So sometimes we'll talk about sharing resources and how to develop ourselves. Other times it's performance to compliance. So the topics definitely range. It's honestly just a really great support network where we can feel relatable to each other and share our experiences.
Fantastic. And I love that part. Of course, support is, we are human. We need support from as many places as we can. And really feel, I really feel for the human resource that, okay, no, everybody expects them to develop everybody else, but nobody's looking to develop them. Again, going back to people, and human resources are also people. Develop everybody, both professionally and spiritually. So I like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I definitely don't mean it as like a womp womp, but I really do believe, and this goes for all employees, while HR is there to kind of build out roadmaps for your development, I implore employees to take that initiative upon themselves and lead their own development, because everyone wants to learn in different ways. A roadmap might not fit what you want to do inside of your career. We might have an engineer who, yeah, they're an engineer and I can build a development plan for them, but they might want to be in HR or in marketing. And so I implore employees to build their own development themselves as well.
Yeah, I like that. And I share my advice in one of my articles as well. I talk about how to build trust with your employees, right? And for managers, and this is advice to leaders, is to go and ask them, work on their development plan, partner with human resources, and that increases the trust level within the entire organization from the employee's perspective. So that's awesome. Speaking of articles, Abby, I hope I'm looking in the future and seeing all these conversations that you have. These are valuable gold nuggets. Bringing them in your conversations on LinkedIn or some articles. Is that something in the future?
Okay, so I've been building up, I get these like sparks and ideas that come up. And so I've been building a little Excel sheet of topics that I'd like to discuss in the future, but nothing right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I've been there. I have a whole list of things. In fact, I have a list in several places now. I think I need to get down into really. It does take effort to
It
get into.
does.
Yeah.
It does, especially when you are not a marketer or a content writer. So you kind of have to put yourself in that mindset of creating content that people want to read and that is valuable for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just sharing a personal aspect of it. Like, I've had articles that I wrote for 3, 4 days just thinking about what I want to make sure that I write properly. There are certain times where I've written, very rare, unfortunately, I've written articles in like 2 hours and I'm like, this is bang on. I want to get this information out there for people to know and be aware of. So, um, awesome. Cool. It's a tough challenge, but it's worth it. I hope you will get to experience your perspective out in these articles and posts.
Very influential. So I may just look at my list.
Fantastic, awesome. Um, what's one thing you wish more companies would stop doing when it comes to people and culture?
Nothing. Just keep trying. I think every step is a lesson. It's almost like a maze. You have to try different paths to find the right one that leads you to success. And then once you get there, just duplicate it. So don't ever stop trying to develop that culture that you want to build. Yeah, just keep trying.
It's so important. You have to be intentional about it. You have to continue to keep doing it. And I love that last spot you mentioned. When you find success, duplicate it. Bright spots.
Yes.
Use the bright spots. Continue. That's one of the strategies referenced by Switch, Chip, and Dan Heath, the book, where they talk about using bright spots to make change easier when change is hard. So,
Yeah. Going back to one of your questions about resentful culture, that feeling, leaders find the bright spots too. It's so easy to be in that hustle and for everybody to be working their absolute hardest. And then that one time someone has a mess up, to just focus on that. But I think finding all those bright spots along the way helps people feel valued and helps them feel like they are capable, allowed even to make mistakes sometimes with grace.
yeah. It's a lot on leaders' shoulders. That's one of the things that even Edgar Chin's talked about. There are six uh, powerful daily behaviors that allow the leaders to embed the organizational culture into the organization. So, for more, just to the audience, reach out and learn more from us. Well, that's been awesome conversation, Abby. Thank you again for joining us. And it's been twice, and I love that you reached out for more conversation. You continue to remind us that human resources done right is not just about policies, but people as well. And more than that, it's about trust, grace, and helping people grow. If this conversation inspired you, share it with someone who's shaping organization culture in your organization. And remember, culture isn't just a department, it's a shared practice. Until next time on Culture8, keep listening, keep learning, and keep building better workplace. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.